first, a few short words about B Solutions. B Solutions is a tool which has been developed by DG REGIO, the border focal point, and resourced by the border focal point for a number of years. It's a program, an initiative which is delivered for the European Union by AEBR, the Association of European Border Regions. And B Solutions essentially allows for the identification and the design of solutions to cross-border obstacles. AEBR works across the EU and beyond the borders of the EU as an association, and with B Solutions we work across every border that is eligible for B Solutions. B Solutions itself is a phenomenon. We have over 200 cases now, I think. We're just formally about to announce our 200th case commissioned. So it's a body of evidence that's available on the B Solutions website and via the AEBR website, and my colleagues have put all of the relevant links in the chat. So please follow those if you want more information. Essentially, B Solutions supports organisations that have a brief or a remit for cross-border cooperation in border regions to commission expert case studies on the nature of obstacles and their solutions in the legal and administrative domain. Essentially, that reaches right across every pillar of European cohesion, every pillar of European integration. So we have cases that are institutional, we have cases that are thematic, and we have commissioned case studies and supported solutions in every field, from cross-border labour mobility to environmental cooperation to institutional cooperation to sectoral trade cooperation, you name it, there's a B Solutions case on it. We are open for applications for B Solutions case support at the moment. Currently, we have an open call for applications. So if you're thinking about an obstacle that is an issue for your border region and that you would like some help or support from B Solutions to identify an evidence base for solving it, then you can apply to us until the 30th of June. We are planning to extend that call. Not just yet, but we will most likely extend that call. But I would say to you, if you're already working on an application, please go ahead and get it into us now. But if you had looked at the deadline and thought that you might not be able to make it because it was the 30th of June, then you will have an opportunity to apply. As regards B Solutions' significance, it's a tool that essentially deepens the impact of every single pan-EU policy agenda there is, right from cohesion and all of the different domains of cohesion to economic cooperation to competitiveness, and also to things like strengthening democracy, rule of law and human rights in border regions and fundamental rights for border residents. The Commission has just done a call for evidence on the right to stay in border regions, and solving obstacles is very, very intrinsically linked with people's ability to live, work, invest or visit border regions, and particularly across the whole of the life cycle. So from that point of view, it's relevant for so many different domains of the challenges and the opportunities that Europe has in front of us, and not just the EU, enlargement countries and in our wider neighbourhood. So I would encourage you to embrace B Solutions, find out more about it if you need to, and keep in touch with us. So the next thing is that we are going to have a one Slido exercise. The details are in the chat, and the question that we are going to ask you, because of course today we are focusing on environmental cross-border cooperation in border regions. So what we would like you to tell us is, what is the main opportunity or area for environmental cross-border cooperation in your border region? So we're just interested to see what people are going to identify, and we are seeing more and more applications for B Solutions cases that are in the environmental domain. So we expect to see a lot more of those, because as we know, environmental cooperation needs transboundary governance in order to work properly. So with that, I'm going to go straight to our speakers, and I am going to explain that we have 4 speakers, and the first 3 I have given two questions too. So they're going to answer those questions from different perspectives. We have Christiaens, who's the coordinator of the Eurometropolis Blue Park. We have Sónia Antunes, who is the technical secretary of the Minho EGTC between Spain and Portugal. And we have Peter Mirza, who is the director of Panon EGTC, with whom we have worked very closely, particularly on strategic discussions about cross-border labour mobility. But Peter is here today to talk about environmental cooperation. And also, we then have Olivera Antić, who is a senior consultant in water resources management, climate change, and urban resilience. Olivera is one of our B Solutions experts. So, looking forward to hear your answers. And I'm going to first indicate what questions I've asked the speakers to focus on. The first question is, why is it important to have a cross-border approach to environmental cooperation in your specific case? And what has participating in B Solutions enabled you to do towards a solution? So the first speaker to give that experience is going to be Christiaens. I'm going to give Catherine the floor to tell us her responses to those questions and give us her perspective. Catherine, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here with you today. First of all, a little bit things about the Eurometropolis Ile-Kortrijk-Tournai. So we're situated in the northwest of Europe on the French and Belgian border. It's a real big territory from more than 2 million inhabitants. Why is cross-border approach important for us? Because, as everybody knows, environmental challenges do not stop at borders. The river's biodiversity and ecosystems are shared resources, and that's why environmental cooperation is necessary to look for shared solutions. And also why water is one of the major themes of the Eurometropolis through our flagship project, the Blue Park. It's a project that has been developed over the past 20 years. It's 5,440 kilometers of waterways, but it is much more than a water network. It's a very transversal project combining environment, biodiversity, water quality, quantity, tourism, mobility, transport, economy also, and leisure and culture. It's a real collective vision. We work on it with numerous actors on our cross-border territory to make it a reality. I would just give one example from concrete action, which is called the Blue Square. The Blue Square is a 90-kilometer loop connecting the main waterways in the heart of our cross-border territory. It connects really the three regions, the French, Walloon, and Flemish part from the Eurometropole. And what we did with our touristic partners is giving the loop a common identity and uniform signage, and also a free tourist map with 24 hotspots on it. Before I tell you more about our B Solutions project on the islets and all meanders from the River Lys, I'd first like to give you the context in which the issue of the project came. So beyond projects, you also create spaces for dialogue between local authorities. That's what we call local meetings with majors. These meetings bring together neighboring municipalities across the border to exchange experiences, good practices, to discuss about common challenges, to look for opportunities, etc. And it was during one of these meetings in 2023 that the issue of the islands on the River Lys emerged. Two majors really asked for our support to do something about that issue. The situation from the issue. So historically, the River Lys formed the border between France and Belgium, but later the river course was modified and straightened to have bigger boats to go on the river. As a result, that some islands are physically attached to one country, but legally they belong to the other. And if we looked on the whole of the River Lys, and the total figure, we have 16 islands and old meanders on it. So this creates practical difficulties. It's not clear who is responsible for what. It's not clear who has to do the maintenance, the management. Also challenges for environmental projects and obstacles to this territorial continuity. So the local authorities were often unsure who was responsible for what, and there was no structured framework for cooperation. I go on. And this is where, for us, the B Solutions became extremely valuable. We have a first contribution and a second contribution. In the first contribution through B Solutions, we were able to work with an expert to understand the problem, to analyze the situation, to identify the legal and administrative obstacles, to explore realistic solutions with all the relevant partners along the old islets and old meanders from the river Lis. Then we had a second contribution from B Solutions, who moved us more towards implementation, with the main result to draft a cooperation agreement that clarifies all the responsibilities, define who does what regarding to the islands and old meanders. In parallel with the making of the agreement, we had a public online consultation on all the islands and old meanders, organized for residents, for associations, for local users, to collect ideas for the future of the islands, projects and policy decisions. In total, we have 112 contributions, with the main ideas concern restoration of biodiversity, recreation, letting nature do what is having to do, and also a longer-term possibility as a reflection on a potential adaptation of the border. So now it's just a perfect moment because the results from that online public consultation will be presented next Monday on the 29th of June. And also the cooperation agreement will be signed by local municipalities, authorities, and also the waterway managers. And we will present the results from the consultation also. The next step is that we will, as agency of Eurometropolis, facilitate this dialogue by setting up and coordinate a monitoring committee, so to ensure a longer-term cooperation. To conclude, this experience clearly demonstrates that environmental challenges do not stop at national borders, and this is why and what these solutions have really helped us to achieve. So by turning a local problem into a structured cooperation process, bringing together the partners who had never worked together in this way, we will create a concrete agreement and establish a sustainable dialogue for the future. So it is not an end point also. This is my story, please.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And I think you make a very important point. And I think particularly as Europe goes into what looks like to be our normal experience of summer now, which is going to be extreme temperatures, lack of rainfall, things like water sharing are much more than just the pipeline. They're about the ecosystems, they're about the sustainability, and these transboundary pieces are so important about how people consume and use and protect the resources. So thank you very much for that perspective, and we may well come back to you as we get more and more cross-border water-based cases, maybe to connect you with some of those case promoters so that they can also learn from the experience of the Blue Park. So thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, that'd be great.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So Sónia, Rio Minho. Rio Minho, I might just say also, is one of our flagship cross-border environmental cooperation cases that is part of the European Union's offering of good practice for the European Union's work in Latin America as well. So I think it's just important to say the Rio Minho is on the western seaboard almost. It's a cross-border river, and these kind of integrated systems that the EGTC there are driving are really flagship for Europe, but beyond Europe for other global regions as well. Sónia, the floor is yours. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Caitriona. Good morning for everyone, and thank you to B Solutions team for the invitation. My name is Sónia Antunes. I'm a technical secretary of Minho EGTC. Minho EGTC is a European group of territorial cooperation bringing between Portugal and Spain. Rio Minho territory is located in the heart of this Euro region, in the center of this region. And we are separated or joined by the river, the Rio Minho River. We are a dynamic cross-border we are the most dynamic cross-border area along the entire border between Portugal and Spain. We include 26 municipalities, around 300,000 inhabitants, Every day, thousands of people cross the border for work, education, business, leisure, family reasons. And for our communities, the border is part of the daily life. But not only the social life, in the environment are very, very important for us, because the river is not only a border, it is a shared ecosystem, it shared a natural heritage and a common responsibility. They are the base of our economy, the base our identity, the base our life. The European the projects of the B solutions are very, very important for us. For the environment challenge in our territory is the most challenge we have in this moment, and this challenge cannot be addressed by only side of the border. Biodiversity conservation, water management, invasive species, sediment dynamics of the sediments, ecological connectivities, and climatic resilience are shared challenge by the two countries. Nature does not recognize by the administrative boundaries. However, while the territory functions as a single space, governance remains fragmented. We have a lot of legislative laws. We have a lot of several laws in the two countries, but we don't have a common governance by the river. This was precisely the challenges that the B solutions can help us. By the boosting cross-border multi-level governance, the projects that we did in the B solutions is the way to change this paradigm. The obstacle we identify was not the absence of environmental legislation. Sorry, my English. I said both countries have a strong environment frameworks. The real challenge was the lack of coordination mechanisms between the competent authorities, different management approaches, limited information, exchange, the absence of permanent structures capable of addressing shared environmental issues from the cross-border perspective. And in this focus, we are work now by the participating in the B Solutions 2.0 project, and by the commissions in this territory, political commissions that do a constant job with the governments of the two countries, with the regional structures, with how people can have a competence in the river. The first phase allowed in these projects by B Solutions, the first phase is allowed us to bring together municipalities, environmental authorities, researchers, and stakeholders from both sides of the borders. More importantly, it helped us build a common diagnosis of the obstacles and identify practical pathways towards solutions. One of the main conclusions was clear: environmental corporations require permanent governance mechanisms, not only occasional cooperation projects. Today in the afternoon, we take a new phase of these projects, and our objective is no longer simply simply to identify obstacles. We are now working to define an operational governance framework, establish stable mechanisms for coordinations and information exchanges, involve the relevant authorities from both countries, and develop practical proposals that can support a long-term corporations in the management of Natura 2000 areas and other several environmental challenges. I have an opportunity to take a contact with the Portuguese authorities in the management of Natura 2000, and they feel this project with a good project, and they need to take a contact with the other side of the border and the other authorities like her. So I think we are in the good way to this project, and we work closely connected to a border process, and we are currently promoting through the Minho Pact. We have a Minho Pact, and we will continue to focus in the environmental in the river Minho, and not only in the Natura 2000, but our whole aspects of environment in the Rio Minho river. About this, over the last year, our municipalities are from both sides of the border have joined efforts to highlight common concerns regarding biodiversity, sediment management, navigability, river restorations, and climate resilience. This demonstrates that our communities are very, very integrated and have a focus in the environmental challenges. For us, the main contributions of the solutions is helping governance catch up with reality. It's very, very important at this point. So we need the governance are aligned with the environmental challenges, the people challenges or issues. So we need so much the B solutions mechanisms to grow up in our corporations between the borders. So it's my contribution. So thank you for listening, and I can respond some questions if you want.
You're very welcome, Sonia. Thank you very much. And I think the multidimensional impact of the B Solutions case is what you were outlining there. It has impact on all sorts of things, the ability to develop different paradigms for environmental governance between Spain and Portugal, adaptability to other parts of the border region, but also this idea of things like public health and all of those things that are to do with how we understand borders as more than a line in a map. So if we understand borders as ecosystems of human and non-human factors and environmental factors and movement, not just of people, movement of nature. Sonia referred to the movement of sediment across the river. All these sort of things matter. 40% of our border regions in the EU is environmental space that we need to work out how to conserve and protect. 40% of our environmental spaces in border regions. What the Rio Minho case is demonstrating is how then do you create a single space governance model that allows for member states to be able to address environmental challenges in a way that actually is effective in border regions, because single state solutions are not always effective for border regions, and I think that's the key thing here. I'm going to go straight to Peter Merza, who is the director of PANON EGTC. PANON is a very important EGTC which is at a crossroads in sort of Central and Southeastern Europe, and we've had the pleasure of working with Panon and ongoing. And they're a very special EGTC. They have offices in Hungary and in Croatia, and they have members from Hungary, Croatia, and Bosnia-Herzegovina. So a very, very important EGTC, which is a bit like a lighthouse on some of the issues. And Peter's a wonderful speaker, so I'm going to give him the floor now. Peter, go ahead, please. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Caitriona. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure for me to be here and to greet you here. After all the very kind words of Caitriona, it's even more challenging. First of all, let me say thank you for the support that, for example, B Solutions and the AEBR has given us in the last couple of years to manage the problems, to find solutions that we have here. So thank you for that. And once again, it's a huge respect for us that we can be here and we are regarded, like Caitriona said. Thank you. Panon, we have more than 50 members. We are working for 16 years in this border area, and it's a very complicated border area. It was part of the, let's put it like that, the Iron Curtain between, because between Yugoslavia and Hungary, it was almost a similar border than it was between the Western states and the Hungary and the other Central European states. So we've inherited a situation where we had a wonderful river between Croatia and Hungary, that is River Drava, and we really had different ideas and different, let's say, visions how we could use that river, and environmental use and environmental protection and tourism-based and environment-based tourism, leisure tourism, software tourism was not among that. So the starting point was very difficult. But then we were successful to set common grounds regarding the values. And it was decided that based on, because it's really a natural reserve, it's a natural beauty, it's untouched. It's one of the last untouched areas in Europe that we must keep. So that's the reason why the environmental focus is in the middle of Panon EGTC since its foundation 16 years ago. The first problem that is related to environment and to the B Solutions solution that we are working on now is that first in the last decades, the Croatian side wanted to develop smaller hydroelectrical power plants on River Drava. And of course, if we have those power plants, then it will not be an untouched river anymore. So it took years, maybe decades, to agree on that. No more power plants on River Drava. And it's been agreed that we will use this natural reserve for, let's say, soft tourism development and in any other way that will not touch the area. And then there came the question, okay, now where will we have energy from? And that is the B Solutions case, and that is the project that we have worked together on. We all know, you all know that decarbonization, energy resilience, energy poverty are not just important issues in European policy making, but these are really important problems. And of course, policy making is important, but at the end, locally, there you have to say those people that, okay, we know it's a periphery, we know that you live in poverty, still we don't want you to do those kind of energy developments that you are planning. So the situation was complicated, and then based on, again, European initiatives and legislations, we've started working on developing projects and identifying possible projects to establish cross-border energy communities. I don't know, have you, I know successful examples from the Dutch, Belgian, French, German border area where it works. But here, the core problem was much more complicated because of historical reasons, because of the peripheral reasons, and because of let's say, the legislative problems that we have on the Hungarian government side and on the Croatian government side. So we can say that at present, it's impossible to establish a cross-border energy community, but still we have a pathway how we think that we can establish this energy community in a couple of years. National laws exclude cross-border energy sharing at present. So it's like an import-export exchange at the moment. And it's impossible to say that, okay, there are two villages next to each other, there's the border between them. It would be natural to build an energy community, but still it cannot be implemented because of the legislative problems on the national level. I teach at the University of Pécs, and I always say that the four freedom, the four freedom, the four freedom. And we realized that energy is neither a good nor a service. It's nothing. It's considering the Hungarian and the Croatian legislation, we cannot identify it. So this is the starting problem. But then, with the support of these solutions, we've decided how to go on. Again, going step by step is the easiest. First of all, we said that we should establish adjacent to national energy communities. Okay, on the Hungarian side and on the Croatian side. We could develop and we should develop two projects parallelly. Actually, it's one project, but it is, let's say, artificially subdivided into two projects. That it is very important that from the beginning, the planning must be joint and should be joint. If you plan an energy community separately, then it will be a mission impossible to unite them in the longer run. Because then all the indicators, all the indices needed for the cost-benefit analysis will be separated in a way that it will be very difficult to unite them in the longer run. So from the beginning, program them and plan them as one project, but artificially divide them into two. That in the meantime, set up a project management, hopefully, let's say a project management including both countries or both parties for the two projects. So the same project management and the same project board should work for the two projects, of course, taking into consideration the national legislation on the in our case, the Hungarian and the Croatian side. So it means that if you have finally those two energy communities ready, then use your politicians. So I always tell my colleagues that let's use the politicians and prepare them the papers, give them the papers that, look, it works like this. And if you can show them any other additional advantage, if the whole energy community is managed jointly, then they will work for it. Now, then comes the question, what could be an additional advantage of a joint energy community in a border area? And here comes the answer. Since it can be a bigger energy community, it can attract more investors, it can attract more industrial developments. I mean, light industrial, of course, not heavy industry, but light industrial developments. Even touristic developments can become more sustainable if the energy base, that is the energy community, is not that small. So in the medium and long term, we plan to write the Hungarian legislation, I mean the modification of the legislation, how to modify the energy law in Hungary to let local municipalities, practically, local municipalities along the River Drava and along the Hungarian-Croatian borderline to join energy committees like this. And definitely a bilateral agreement is needed between the two countries to let, let's say, to provide the legal background for this mechanism. And my last sentence, I don't want to take the time, is that, of course, everything could be much easier, everything. When and how? If we would have a European Union level regulatory framework for cross-border energy community management and how to set up cross-border energy communities. So that is, in the end, maybe the biggest, let's say, input from these solutions and from our small project, that a European Union regulatory framework could be prepared, could be accepted, and after that, it would be obligatory for the member states to use that, And it would not just make our life easier. I mean, okay, we like projects, we like to solve problems, but it would make literally thousands of people easier. I mean, their life easier, and it would literally give more chances for those areas, because normally in Central Europe and in Eastern Europe, these border areas are the areas of no one. Still, after EU accession, after Schengen accession, it's the territory of no one. But and there's no more border because of the Schengen area. There's nothing, but still this nothing can only be, let's say, overdeveloped. I don't know whether that's the best word or not, if we have a regulatory framework how to develop it. I'm sorry for taking maybe more time than I was allowed, but I'm a big fan of EU and energy communities.
Thank you, Peter. That's really important stuff, and please don't apologize. I mean, the issue not only of how member states design their grid storage systems and their actual grid systems to take account of the need for decentralization of energy, decentralized ecosystems for energy that are also renewable. All of these things are very, very important issues. And then secondarily, how we actually design for sustainable energy across the totality of the territory of the EU is hugely important. So the border regions are where those solutions can be demonstrated. And as you say, the border regions can be the laboratories in which these solutions are modelled, which can help the whole of the EU. So you're absolutely right to say this is relevant for future regulatory frameworks that would enable whole economies to operate beyond their borders in terms of energy supply, and societies and communities. So big, important stuff. From small acorns, sometimes big trees can grow. And I'm looking forward to working with you on that case later this year. So it will be great. So that is actually quite helpfully segues us into a particular region of Europe that AEBR has a huge commitment to supporting, which is the south, I suppose, the southeastern region of Europe, the Western Balkans, and those states that are on the European accession journey at the moment. For us, I suppose what we feel very strongly is that we have now at this point in time for European enlargement a huge body of experience and a huge body of structured experience that we want to share with our Western Balkan colleagues and to help with the European integration journey, particularly because of the number of borders that exist in that part of Europe. So cross-border cooperation becomes a very, very relevant issue for national economies in ways that perhaps in some of the larger states that are maybe have been members of the EU for longer, it hasn't been quite as an urgent an issue, but we're talking about smaller states with lots more borders. So from that point of view, we wanted to invite Olivera particularly to tell us a little bit about her perspective on how important cross-border environmental cooperation is to the Western Balkans and to the EU enlargement process, and her view on what role B Solutions can play in supporting that process. We do have cases coming on stream in the region, but we're really keen to hear Olivera's perspective. So please, Olivera, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Caitriona, and good afternoon to everyone. Well, to answer how important cross-border environmental cooperation is to Western Balkan, we only need to look at the map. The Western Balkan is not just a neighbor to the European Union, it's surrounded by it. Our major rivers basin, like the Sava and the Danube River, are shared between EU member states and candidate countries. Now we have cherry on the top with Western Balkans country and environmental cooperation on the cross-border. So environmental challenges, climate-driven floods and pollution do not stop at EU's external border. When a flood wave forms from the Sava or Drina rivers, or when accidental chemical spill occur on the Danube, the impact is immediately transboundary. Therefore, environmental cooperation for us for Western Balkan is not option. It's absolute ecological and structural necessity. And we as a Western Balkan countries, we cannot achieve the goals of EU Green Deal or climate resilient Europe if we treat the Western Balkan borders as a wall that block the flow of environmental data and the joint disaster management. This brings us to the enlargement process for candidate countries like Serbia and all other in Western Balkan, aligning with EU environmental acquis, specifically Chapter 27 for environment and Chapter 15 for energy, is one of the most complex and expensive parts of accession. From my years of working within national institution in Western Balkan region and national institution as well, I have seen recurring bottleneck. We spend a lot of energy to harmonize our national laws on paper. We transpose, for example, Water Framework Directive, Flood Directive, etc. But the real test on enlargement is operational implementation on the ground, especially at the borders. That's the key challenge for all of us. For example, when preparing environmental impact assessment for major cross-border infrastructure, such we have rehabilitation of Đerdap to navigation lock on the Danube River, the ESPO Convention, we run immediately into administrative issues. We encounter mismatching statutory timeline for public hearing, complex requirements for certified technical translation, and different legal definition of stakeholders' engagement between EU and non-EU sides. Enlargement starts not because the political will is missing, but because our daily administrative machinery is not synchronized at the level we need it. And I think, based on my experience, that this is precisely where the B solution methodology become a game changer for the enlargement process. Typically, transboundary water and environmental management on the EU external borders relies on high-level diplomacy or massive regional commission like ICPDR, International Commission for the Protection of Danube River, or SAVA Commission, but these bodies are excellent for strategies. Now we are talking about something what is really useful for people, and the B solution looks at the micro level, the specific legal and administrative obstacles that can support local cooperation. What role can B solution play? Based on my experience, it can act as an accelerator for practical enlargement in three ways. Creating localized emergency protocol. B solution can help border municipalities to bypass slow diplomatic channels. Instead of waiting for central government clearance during a flood wave, it can foster localized, legally binding protocols for real-time data exchange and joint operational between EU and non-EU municipalities. Unlock green infrastructure pipeline. It's really important when preparing complex in all Western Balkan. It's EPA 3 cross-border projects for wastewater, for waste management, drinking water, differing procurement rules and funding streams often stall progress. B solution can provide the exact legal expertise needed to align this framework, just as to adapt that, adjust to local municipalities and the neighboring municipalities across the two countries, or even more. We are talking about Western Balkan. Green corridors for ecological intervention. It can help design bilateral agreements to allow emergency ecological response teams and equipment to cross external EU borders instantly in the event of industrial accident, eliminating hours wasted at custom checkpoints. So, to conclude, cross-border environmental cooperation is the ultimate test for EU enlargement. in the Western Balkan. It moves us past political, rhetorical, and forces to solve practical puzzles. I see this initiative as the missing link in this region in Western Balkan. It can provide a sharp, targeted, legal solution we need to cut through the administration red tape at the EU's external borders. By solving these micro obstacles today, we are systematically building the institutions memory required for full EU integration access tomorrow in next years. That's from my side in this moment, and the view from the Western Balkan countries.
Fantastic, Olivera. Thank you very much for that very generous assessment of B-Solutions. And we are committed to trying to help deliver that methodology in as many different cases as possible in the region. We know what some of the language that you've used is actually quite phenomenal. I mean, you've described us as the missing link for the region, for the enlargement process. And an ecological and structural necessity. You've talked about the fact that environmental cooperation will be the litmus test of enlargement in the region. So we're very happy that B-Solutions is available. It's available also, I think, very importantly, to anyone who is in a candidate country at the moment with a border with the EU. It's very important to understand that B-Solutions can help with lots of the different pillars for enlargement, but it will help with things like legislative alignment. So it's a small intervention, but it can have very, very big scaled up effects for candidate countries. So Olivera, thank you so much. Again, looking forward to working with you and to talking more with you about the region. It's a region that I have a huge commitment to helping as well. So thank you for your time today. So we've just concluded with our speakers. We have a short opportunity now to hear from my colleagues about the results of the Slido. So I'm going to ask Marianne to tell us a little bit about the Slido, and then we'll deal with some questions, and then I'm going to give the floor to Riccardo from the Commission after that. So Marianne, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. So thank you very much for those who answered the Slido. So as we can see, some elements which were discussed by the speakers appear here and there. So part of the main opportunities or areas for environmental cross-border cooperation, we can see that elements related to sharing resources, such as river basin, water management, come several times into the discussion, as well as obstacles related to air pollution, animal disease. And this is interesting because it's also themes that we have observed within the Resilient Border Initiative, which is an initiative by DG REGIO, managed also by AEBR and MOT, where we can find all of these thematic areas appearing as well within the pilot actions, which were trying to work together across border to have actions plan and tackle this kind of issues. So we see there is opportunities, but there are also solutions. And over here, yeah, we can see a wide range of different elements. And I can say also from the chat that there was an interesting exchange regarding more energy community between Peter Mezza and other colleagues. So if you are also interested to know more about cross-border energy community, there is also another initiative from DG REGIO managed by AEBR and MOT on cross-border energy communities. So yeah, I put the link in the chat as well if you're interested and you want to dive in more. But what we can see is that there is a lot of room for opportunity, a lot of room for joint solutions, and yeah, to be more optimistic. Then of course there are obstacles, but through many support we can achieve something and make progress. So, yeah, back to you, Caitriona.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marianne. And I think looking at the chat, we also had one question, which was about how many partners do you need for a B-Solutions project? That depends. I'm going to answer that directly, but it depends very much on what the problem is, and it depends who needs to be involved in the solution. But essentially, a border regional authority or a municipality with a partner or with a cross-border remit can apply for a B Solutions case, but there's no hard and fast rule. It's also, you've got to remember that the application, it has to be focused on an obstacle, legal or administrative, that you have identified and that you want to develop a solution for. So I would encourage anyone thinking about it and who wants more information on eligibility to go straight to the links which my colleagues have posted in the chat, and you'll have all of the information you need there. You can also contact us for additional information if that helps you to deliberate. But it is very important also to remember that it's cross-border obstacles that we focus on, and cross-border solutions. And one of the things that we are also encouraging people to do is to see the solution and see the case, the B Solutions case, in the wider context of the conditions that are necessary for its solution. So we work very closely with the authorities on the ground in border regions to build the capacity. B Solutions has 2 stages. One is the case study, which is essentially the initial stage, which is the where you have the statement of the problem and the identification of the potential solutions to the problem. And then for objective 2, we offer additional support, which is for a case to move into an implementational context, to really bring that solution to an pre-implementation stage. And that's what Peter has been talking about with the Energy Communities project for Panon. It's what Sónia is also talking about, and I know, Sónia, we are meeting later today about that case as well. Looking forward to that. So on that basis, I think we're actually doing quite well for time. I think I should say, just before I hand over to Riccardo Ferreira, who's our colleague in the Commission, who heads up the EU border focal point, the thing about the environmental cooperation that B Solutions methodology can support is that it is what Olivera has described. It creates the solution at a local level, which is applicable at a local level. It works to develop those joint solutions that are necessary at the level of the ground, particularly when it comes to things like disaster management, but not exclusively so. It relates to all sorts of other types of environmental cooperation. It complements the diplomatic channel activity by being the solution that is necessary on the ground for the immediate responses to be necessary. But there is also a longer term impact to the B Solutions methodology, which is around creating alignment of legislative conditions for the development of green infrastructure corridors, for example, as Olivera has mentioned. So B Solutions is both very practical at a local level, but also strategic in its impact and its potential to influence change and to create learning for other solutions. And on that basis, I am going to hand over and welcome our colleague Riccardo Ferreira, who works for DG REGIO in the European Commission. Riccardo is a cross-border specialist, an economist by trade, and a very, very well-esteemed colleague of ours who has really helped the B Solutions programme to take hold and continues to support us in AEBR as we deliver it for the Commission. Riccardo, you're very welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Caitriona. It's always a pleasure to attend this type of webinars. And I always feel delighted to learn from the experts, from the real experts who are pushing things from the ground and who are making things happen in the ground in each of the territories. Well, there is not much to say about environment and cross-border environmental management, just to say that borders are lines invented by men, by human society, and we forget to teach the fish and the birds where the borderlines are. They do not know it. So if they do not know where the borderlines are, we should not create things differently in those borderlines that are meaningless to them. And whenever I talk about the environment, I always recall one history in another lifetime, in another millennia, I used to listen to colleagues talking about agricultural policy, and they would tell me, well, we have this huge problem with these guys creating environmental policy. They've created this strange thing called Natura 2000. And you know what? In our border, they were telling me, in our border, one side of the river is classified as Natura 2000, the other is not. Therefore, on our side of the river, we cannot use pesticides, while on the other side they can. And indeed, they were right. That's a mistake. That's not a mistake that Natura 2000 exists. It's a mistake that sometimes the border limits the implementation of environmental policy and different actions. And we tend to think that the solution would be at a very high level, but no, frequently it should come from the bottom up. Frequently, there is a reason why one member state identified one bank of the river as being a Natura 2000 site, and the other did not. There is a reason at national level. Possibly, it's missing to see the angle of the cross-border territory and of the local level. And this is why I'm a strong believer of cross-border cooperation and the need to push for solutions from bottom up. Because simply, we need to be capable to look at territories as being the natural area that one can exploit their activities in. And when it comes to environmental situations, that's very clear that, again, fish do not know where the borderline is, so it should be jointly managed. And it's quite interesting, the work that is being done by AEBR and enormous work by the experts and enormous work done by so many entities applying for these solutions, is that to identify the real nature of the obstacle, for us to dream that the policy level would change the regulations that hamper cross-border interactions, we do need to have clear bottom-up analysis and clear bottom-up assessment of the problems. Therefore, it's not just having the tools, and this is my main message. We can provide the tools at European level. We provide Interreg. We provide the solutions. Now we have another tool, which is this bridge for EU that we have been discussing in other fora. But for them to be useful, it requires that the entities at local level, they do use them. So the tools are there clearly to solve the obstacles felt on the ground, on the cross-border territory. It must start by the engagement of local authorities, of local stakeholders who put the case on the table. We can put the cases on the table via B solutions. Do contact AEBR. So my quest is clearly do apply as much as possible, because it's your action that will trigger political change in the end. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Riccardo. And I would echo that. B Solutions is the way that you have at your disposal to contribute to change in those larger European frameworks. We need the evidence base. We need the evidence of the practice. We need the practical solutions on the ground so that people like Riccardo can do their job. So yes, please keep the applications coming. AEBR remains at your disposal, and I would like to end by thanking each of our speakers again sincerely for giving up their lunch hour to speak with us, but we hope that this format has been helpful to people, has given people a quick insight into some of the questions they might have about B Solutions, and a quick insight into the kind of ways in which B Solutions can contribute to many different domains of territorial development and cross-border cooperation. So Olivera, Peter, Sónia, Catherine, can I thank you very much on behalf of AEBR. Thank you to all our participants, and thank you to Marianne and Leonie and Stella for all of their work in preparing and ensuring that we could host the event today. We are contactable, we'll stay in contact, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.